You are seriously missing out if you aren't using this top-tier spice when cooking. Loomi's tangy and earthy flavour adds a game-changing sour depth to dishes, making them impossible to resist. It amplifies other spices, turning the flavour in your cooking up to 11, all while being a simple shelf-stable spice. It's the perfect easy-to-use ingredient for cutting through richness and enhancing tanginess, so you'll be reaching for it all the time. Loomi or Loomi are basically limes that are fully dehydrated, meaning they're 100% dry. They come in both yellow and black varieties, with the black ones being the bitter, more intensely flavoured of the two. Hundreds of years ago, people would sun-dry limes to preserve them for use after their season ends, but because of how flavourful they are, they became one of the most important ingredients in Persian and Gulf cuisines. You'll find them in pretty much any soup or stew from the regions. The flavour they give to dishes is a unique and well-balanced mix of tanginess, earthiness and bitterness that honestly can't be matched by anything else. And it's not just the unique flavour that made them so popular, they're one of the few spices that literally anyone can make. I made these the other week. All you need are some key Indian or Mexican limes, the round kind with a thin skin and no white pith. Wash them thoroughly of any dirt and yeast, then pat off the moisture before putting them somewhere sunny with plenty of airflow to dry. Drying them outdoors or hanging them in a sunny window should speed it up so they're ready in 3 to 5 weeks. Check them regularly, and when they feel hollow and light, they're ready to go into your cooking. To turn them into the more intense black variety, you simply bake them at a high temperature to char all over. That's how easy it is to make Loomi, but you can skip all of that by buying your dried limes from any Arab or Persian store. Look for dried limes about the size of a lychee, they're the easiest to portion out. And if you can't find them locally, you can get really great dried limes online. The whole ones last years without losing flavour. These are about 7 years old and are still super fragrant. Now that's all well and good, but what do they even taste like? To find out, let's make some Loomi tea and compare it to some of the other sour ingredients you know. Poke a few holes into a dried lime and boil it for about 10 minutes to make this traditional Persian and Arab drink. The yellow Loomi has a long-lasting citrusy tanginess that you really feel in the back of your throat. There's also these earthy and astringent bitter notes from the dried lime zest that are reminiscent of rhubarb and pickled fresh olives. Like sumac, the main flavour in Loomi is long-lasting tanginess rather than intense sourness, but Loomi doesn't have the berry-like fruitiness of sumac. Fresh lime, on the other hand, has a ton of sharp, bright sourness that tingles the tongue, and not much of that lasting tanginess. Overall, yellow Loomi is tangy without being overly sour, with some added deeper, earthier flavours. Black Loomi takes that even further. There's no sharpness, but even more tanginess. It also has these fermented notes like preserved lemons and black garlic, and it has a slight smokiness that adds to its depth and complexity. You can still taste the lime flavour, but it's closer to sumac in terms of acidity. That combination of bitterness and earthiness balanced by the tanginess is what makes Loomi so useful. It can cut through fatty dishes, amplify other flavours, seriously enhance tanginess, and bring a refreshing balance to sweet foods. Plus, with a more rounded and less acidic citrusy flavour, it's pretty easy to substitute for lime in any dish. To get started using Loomi, I recommend subbing it in your favourite recipes. Using 2 black Loomi or 3 yellow ones will give the same amount of flavour to a dish that you get from a 2-inch quill of cinnamon or a teaspoon of cumin seeds. Unless you're making a large pot of food, you'll really need more than 2 to 3 Loomi. To use whole Loomi, pierce them a few times, then chuck them in soup, stocks and even rice. Crushing Loomi gives you twice as much flavour out of each line, but you'll need to pick out the awfully bitter seeds. Turning Loomi into a potent Loomi powder is an easy way to incorporate its flavour into any recipe. This fragrant powder is packed with tangy flavour, but it needs care as it's just as potent as freshly ground cumin. It works brilliantly in marinades and spice mixes, substituted for sumac at half the volume, or by replacing each tablespoon of citrus juice with 1/4 to half a teaspoon of powder. By using it, you can easily add a citrus flavour and deeper earthier notes to your homemade spice blends, all while being shelf-stable and perfectly balanced. It also excels as a garnish and standalone spice for sprinkling over your plain foods. We've used Loomi in loads of recipes, like kabsa or mechbous, where it's layered with other fragrant spices to amplify their flavours. In our classic yellow rice, it creates a tangy turmeric flavour profile that is perfect for cutting through the fattiness of grilled foods. And in our Iraqi dolma, it harmonizes with pomegranate molasses, sumac and tamarind to give the deepest, tangiest flavour. To give you more inspiration, we've put together a whole playlist full of Loomi dishes. For your day-to-day cooking, you should reach for Loomi whenever you want a rich layered tangy flavour. In this green bean salad, the smoky sourness of Loomi balances the sweetness of roast tomatoes to give you a lip-smacking sourness. On fried eggs, I often use sumac to cut through the richness, but for a fancier version, Loomi takes them to another level. This miso salmon usually has lemon juice, but adding Loomi brings out more of the fermented nutty sweetness in miso. It works great too on desserts and sweet foods. Simply sprinkle it over tangy fruit like mangoes or strawberries and watch their flavour come to life. My final word of advice is to make Tajin's smoky Middle Eastern cousin. It's great on the rim of a glass and makes for some mean popcorn. Pick up a bag of Loomi, and you'll wonder how you ever lived without it.